Welcome to Rules I Refuse to Follow, a weekly bite-sized segment where I unpack the unspoken rules women are expected to follow in business, relationships, and daily life and lovingly burn them to the fucking ground. This is Too Much, Not Enough, the podcast helping 6- and 7-figure female leaders understand how chasing success is causing low self-worth and anxiety, and how awakening your divine feminine energy will reignite flow, abundance, and ease. I'm your host, Hannah O'Donovan, and this week's rule: ask for help, but don't be needy. So this is a rule that I followed for most of my life. I, somewhere along the way, got it into my head that I was too much, too needy. I am a very emotional person. My emotions run deep, like deep, deep, deep. And that comes across for people sometimes as too dramatic, too sensitive, annoying. And that fed back to me this idea that I was needy, because for majority of my life, I did not know how to handle, how to process, how to be with my own emotions. And so I would often project that onto others, and or I would drink to numb the big feelings that I didn't want to sit with. And then the behavior would come out in a different way. And so I connect so deeply to this rule, this societal expectation that we should ask for help, especially as women. Like, you don't need to do this on your own. Ask for help, but don't be too needy. There's a line where you are being too much, that you are asking for too much, that is always this balance, this performance of like, I'm not hyper independent, I accept help, but only to a certain point where I am never actually inconveniencing someone else. And here's the thing, being in relationship with other humans, whatever that relationship may be, whether it's romantic, platonic, it's a work relationship, it's a friend, it's a family member, there are elements of inconvenience. That is the price that we pay for connection. And we seem to have like come to this space, this weird societal space where being inconvenienced is the worst possible thing that can happen. So we really distance ourselves and we don't ask for help and we don't accept help, quite frankly. But no, we should be inconveniencing each other to a certain extent, because that is how we connect. That is how we build intimacy. That is how we support each other. The major problem with this idea of ask for help, but don't be too needy, really make sure that you're playing the game properly, is that it continues to uphold this masculine paradigm of independence, which completely contrasts this feminine principle of receptivity. So embodying receptivity is actually really powerful. Like learning how to truly receive, not because you're incapable, not because you are so needy and you are a damsel in distress and you can't help yourself, but because it honors your own energy. Receiving doesn't actually dilute your strength. It deepens your capacity to lead with ease. It deepens your ability to connect with others. And it also shows you as like a real fucking human being, which then in turn makes others feel more comfortable around you and teaches them that they can, in fact, not only ask for help, but they can accept that help when it comes, because that is a very important part of the equation, my friends. Sometimes we ask for help, but we don't actually accept the help. And I see this happen so often, particularly in heterosexual relationships between men and women. Women are like, he never helps around the house. He won't do it this. He can't do that. He's useless. But then do they actually accept the help when he gives it? No, because it doesn't look like how they want it to. And they actually don't know how to receive that help, how to actually let their nervous systems down for long enough to receive. And this is like, we talk about so much about divine feminine energy and this is like the crux. This actually could be one of the most important rules I refuse to follow, because it is about learning how to receive at the end of the day and how to be comfortable with asking for help, showing your vulnerability, showing that you need support, and then actually receiving that support. because there's a bit of a double bind when it comes to female leadership, especially high achieving female leaders, which is a lot of us. We are told to be collaborative and vulnerable, but only if it doesn't make others uncomfortable. And then we're constantly like hyper vigilant in trying to measure, is this ask going to make this person uncomfortable? And this keeps us isolated and exhausted and disconnected from our feminine energy, which actually thrives in connection and support. Feminine energy is about community, is about connection, is about nurturing. Asking for help and receiving help is about nurture. It's about showing that we deserve nurture and allowing ourselves to receive nurture. And so if we're constantly in our heads about like, okay, I need help on this, but I don't want to seem needy, then we are falling into this trap of isolating ourselves, which then creates this sense of exhaustion and also this false sense of control. Because the less we ask for help, the more hyper independent we become, because I can just do it for myself. Like, fuck off, I don't need a man. And then we start to control the things we do and how we do it. And when someone comes along, whether that is romantic or not, and wants to help us, we're like, no, that's not safe. And we need to learn that what is actually the unsafe part of this is seeing neediness as a weakness. It's not. We need to reframe it as a vital emotional cue. When we label ourselves as needy, when we ask for support, it creates this internalized shame and it perpetuates this myth that your worth is tied to your self-sufficiency, to your hyper-independence. And then we get into this loop again where the more self-sufficient we are, the more worthy we are. Instead, when we see needing others as a vital and important part of the human experience, and quite frankly, a divine feminine strength, then we are able to ask for more help and receive more help and get ourselves out of this loop of our worth being tied to our self-sufficiency. And I will say this again because I think it is so freaking important. Your true power as a female leader is in you learning to receive. Again, not because you're incapable, but because you have learned how to honor your own energy. You have learned to say no or to ask for help before you get to your breaking point. And when you are able to master the contrast of the masculine paradigm of independence with the feminine principle of receptivity, because again, it's always about a balance of both. It's not like we completely shirk one for the other, because that is how we've gotten to where we've gotten to in society. We have overemphasized masculine energy so much that it is so out of balance with our feminine energy, which is why we are in the place we are in. When you are able to balance that contrast between the two and truly honor your ability to ask for help when you need it, honor the energy that you have or maybe don't have, and then actually receive the help, it doesn't dilute your strength. It actually deepens your capacity to lead with not only ease, but by example, so that others can see that when you ask for help, you are not needy. When you ask for help and actually allow that help into your life, you are being vulnerable and creating intimate connection with another being, which is a deeply important part of bringing more of the divine feminine into our everyday. The hyper independence, the worth being connected to being self-sufficient is not working for us. It's not. I have seen firsthand how it absolutely put me underwater in my last relationship. And I made such a conscious decision in this relationship that I'm in now to lean on my partner for support, to ask him for help, especially in the moments where my entire being was saying, no, Hannah, stop. You're being needy. Like, you can't be seen as needy. No, actually, that is one of the most beautiful parts of our relationship. The moment where I refused to listen to that voice of shame that I was being too needy and actually allowed him to step in and provide for me, to provide me with support and be that like anchor that I needed when I was having a vulnerable moment, has been part of why our relationship is so successful. So, how are you going to refuse to see that asking for help makes you needy? And with that, I will be back next Sunday with another rule that I say the big old fuck you to.